Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Knicks Film School pregame show. My name is Andrew Claudio, aka GMAC. It is time to preview another Knicks matchup, this time on Sunday night down in South Beach against the Miami Heat. I actually should clarify, the Miami Heat don't play actually on South Beach. They play across like a little gulf from South Beach. Giancarlo can clarify that for me when he gets up on stage, but neither here nor there, whether LeBron got that wrong or not. The Knicks play the Heat on Sunday night. And if they were playing the Heat on Friday night, then the vibes would be so much worse than they are right now, because the Knicks got a thrilling last moment victory over the Memphis Grizzlies on the road. A clutch three from OG Anunoby off of a pass from the captain. And now the vibes are back, and who cares if they're 0-7 against the top three? They're 39-13 against the rest of the league, and we are choosing to celebrate being number 4 here in New York. Look, this has been an exercise in perspective a lot of this season, and I hope, Knicks fans, that you're enjoying this Saturday. If you're here in the Big Apple, it's a high of 55 degrees. And I'm going for a walk after this. Mike will play some ball after this. I think you should enjoy as much of this season, as much of this day, and maybe just like this planet as you can. Because I don't know if you've read up on the news, it's not the greatest at the moment. But as far as I'm concerned, it's always good to celebrate when your basketball team is good and relevant and treating you well. On the other hand, then there's maybe what happened to my good friend Giancarlo's team down in Miami. And joining me to talk all about it, from the Miami Heat beat, Mr. Giancarlo Navas. The last time I had you on here, my friend, I believe the Knicks were 3-3, and the Heat were off to this really nice start. Jimmy and Jimmy Butler was acclimating himself to
the third.
Yes, Jimmy Butler the third, to this roster after a good start from Tyler Hero, which we were hoping would be an all-star campaign. It was right before Cat had his breakout game against the Heat, and it was like, okay, maybe we'll see them again. It's weird that we don't see them again until March, but I look forward to the next time we see the Miami Heat. A lot has happened since then, so I'll first start with, how are you, and how are the vibes? I'll just jump right into it.
The vibes are mixed, Andrew. The vibes are
okay.
Mixed. So
mixed.
The vibes are, part of it was happy because Terry Rozier got 2 straight coaches decision DMPs. And we were thrilled. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I mean, we might have, you could have confused us for Eagles fans the way we were celebrating.
So he's been like, not the devil incarnate, but, or even like a scapegoat, but he's been the ire of everyone's energy.
Approaching most hated Heat player ever.
Gotcha. Oh, wow. It's that bad. Okay,
approaching, if not there already. But then he played yesterday for a little bit, and they still won. So it's like we survived the Rozier thing. So they've won 2 straight. They look to have corrected a slide that was pretty embarrassing. And I will say that, listen, this is clearly a playing team, and we are all aware of it. And there is no delusion. There's no nothing. We know what they are. The question is, they can't out-tank the Brooklyn Nets. As you guys in New York know, you can't out-tank the Brooklyn Nets.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just kind of stuck in the play-in. And we're basically watching, lottery balls at this point in the season. I got to be honest, it's the mighty have fallen, Andrew. The
mighty have fallen. So it's over. Like, obviously, Jimmy being traded.
Well, no,
there's no like,
yeah, that's over.
But there's no like, Pat has a plan. This offseason's a thing. Kevin Durant might be available. Giannis might be available.
2026, I think, is the plan. So, like, when they traded Butler, I think the idea was, it's like, hey, can we get some cap space and some draft equity for 2026? 2026 actually looks to be really funny because, Luka gets traded. He was one of the 2026 free agents that, I mean, I think if you've been in league circles, you kind of, the Luka trade obviously is shocking, but I think that was the guy, that was the superstar player that everyone's like, could he leave? Is it possible that he leaves? That was one of the guys that people were talking about. And there were a couple guys. I mean, De'Aaron Fox was another guy, also got moved. So I think the plans changed a little bit when they were looking at 2026. They take Andrew Wiggins, who has a player option in 2026, which who knows what he'll do. So you can't count on that kind of cap space. And then you take Kyle Anderson, which you were supposed to move that same night, but the deal with the Raptors fell through in the middle of that. So they were stuck with Kyle Anderson. So Kyle Anderson has money on the books for a few years. So they're kind of, caught with their pants down there. So the strategy right now, Andrew, is Not a lot. They're not going to have flexibility. They're going to have to make some decisions on guys like Duncan Robinson, Haywood Highsmith, Nikola Jovic. Their extensions are coming up. Tyler's is due very quickly for another extension, and he's playing the best ball of his life right now. And now you have to be like, am I going to pay Tyler Hero $44 million a year? We're talking like Brandon Ingram. I think Brandon Ingram level money is probably like the kind of tier that he's looking at. Probably not as good as Tyrese Maxey. Probably a little bit better than Brandon Ingram. That's kind of, those are the peers. So a lot of decisions are coming their way. At least they got the extra pick from the Warriors. And if I sound aimless, it's because that's how the organization probably feels right now as well.
So, look, been there. Maybe not as off of a run of success the way they have been, but the questions and the forks in the road and the crossroads that it seems like the Heat are at, that don't necessarily determine like you're in the middle, which is one of the worst places to be, but it's just the
bottom
nature
middle.
Well, so like the nature of you're not tanking, but you're not contending. It's not even like whatever the Knicks are, like one of the 10 or so best teams. The biggest curiosity, they're around the Hawks, exactly.
They're literally whatever.
They're
the
not
Hawks
the Bulls.
Yeah,
they're not what the Nets are. They're not what the Raptors are. They're the Hawks. They're a playing team at the moment, and I think the biggest curiosity that I've had, and as a viewer of the Miami Heat, watching you guys go through the Jimmy saga this year and seeing Alf take down the poster and the jersey, whatever it was that he took down.
The jersey poster.
So, I think the number one thing I've asked myself and wanted to ask you the next time that I get the chance to talk to you, not knowing whether or not he would still be a member of the Miami Heat, is about legacy. And the way it ended with LeBron, that was contentious, but I'm sure after a while it was like, okay, he went home. Like he had to eventually like conclude that chapter. Well, I know in the moment they didn't.
No, I don't think I think people still feel like that.
So then talk me through it. Compare the way it ended with LeBron to the way it ended with Jimmy and how it's different.
So I think with LeBron, and this is kind of the thing that bothers, I think, people from Miami. There was sabotage by LeBron on the way out. And I remember when I used to write, I compared what he did to what the Romans did to Carthage, where they put sand all over of Carthage so nothing would ever grow again. Okay. Because when he was leaving on his way out, Miami was trying to do stuff. And he was calling other players like Gasol, like Lowry, and be like, don't go there. And he was actively doing that to like prevent Miami from getting guys and improving the team. And he waited till the very end when all the free agency dried up and there was nothing left, right? And I think if you really put it in a vacuum, I think that Miami, a lot of teams in the East that year were really withering. And I think you saw the next 4 years, LeBron's East run went pretty much uncontested outside of the Raptors, kind of. And even then, LeBronto's a thing. DeMar DeRozan, if we had him. So the East was withering. And I think he saw that. And Miami, D-Wade, Chris Bosh, cap space, Luol Deng, a good organization. It makes sense that you're trying to plan your exit and, you stick that nail in the coffin. And I think people were more mad about that than a lot of other stuff because I think he left.
Real quick. When you say people, do you mean like the organization?
Well,
like you mean the organization,
top to bottom.
Or do you mean like the fan base? Okay,
top to bottom, organization, every fan base. I think if you are around the team and you know what I mean. Then like I think that was kind of the prevailing feeling. The going home stuff was BS, right? Like he's going back to Dan Gilbert. Like spare me the details. Like you're going for the PR. Andrew, people were throwing batteries at him. Like literal.
I remember. Yeah, guy wrote a Comic Sans letter. I remember.
They were putting I'm talking about the fans. The
fans,
the fans were throwing batteries on him. They were putting his face on urinals. Like people used to pee on his face. They're putting his face on urinals in Cleveland and all over the country. They're throwing batteries. They didn't even throw batteries in Cleveland. It was somewhere else. So I think the hate, probably got to him a little bit as well. And he's like, I need to repair my PR, which, by the way, he's done so splendidly. He's the darling of the league. Everybody loves him. He would have never been that here. And you know that. Doesn't matter what you do. He could have cured cancer. And that's just not, that wouldn't have, and that's fair. Listen, it's sports. It happens. That's the deal. So the LeBron exit, I think people, and also like I think Miami was like begrudgingly trying to act thankful because we're like, okay, let's not be Cleveland. You know, that was really, I think the fan sentiment is like, hey, let's not be Cleveland because like, we're better than them kind of thing. And I think we were. I mean, we did cheer him when he comes back, and I mean, you still go to a game. I mean, there's still LeBron jerseys. You know, I'll tell you something. I don't see Chris Bosh jerseys around, but I still see LeBron jerseys around, town and everything. So I think that exit is different for a lot of reasons. I think also he claimed that like, oh, he was upset that they amnestied Mike Miller when it's reported that they asked him, hey, what do you think of this? And he's like, yeah, go ahead. So I think that there's a lot of he said, she said, kind of similar to the Jimmy and Pat stuff right now. And that's kind of a theme where I think people bump heads with the organization and they go and there's a PR battle going on. And to kind of transition to Jimmy, I think similar thing really happened. I think, listen, Andrew, I put the fault on the organization first and foremost because you knew that he wanted an extension of a certain amount of money. His representation, Bernie Lee, made it very, very, very clear what he and his player wanted. And the Heat knew that they weren't going to give it to him. I talked to multiple people around the organization that covered the team. And I said, if Jimmy had an all-NBA season, played 70 games, and did and acted like a model citizen, would they have given him the extension that he wanted? Every single person told me no. And if that's the case, why did you as the organization let it get to where it got? If you knew, you know who you're dealing with. You know who you married. You cannot just expect you to get to that extension thing and say, hey, Jim, we're going to try to give you a longer deal with less money annually to give us flexibility. He doesn't want to play that long. You know who you're dealing with. So I think some of that colors how the fans have kind of taken to this. I actually don't know what reception he's going to get when he comes back. I think it's super mixed. He made it really ugly. And I think a lot of people have turned on the organization for the stuff I just said. And a lot of other people feel like they never did enough to help the team win, that they were stingy with assets, that they didn't want to trade this guy. And they mismanaged these picks. They picked Precious over Maxey. People were upset about the Lowry pick, which with the Lowry trade, obviously I'm not. A lot of people have a lot of opinions on the moves that were made, or the moves, and more specifically that weren't made, the Heat felt they were too good for Trae Young. The Heat felt they were too good for Lauri Markkanen. Those were guys that they were linked to that went somewhere else for a lot less. The Heat felt they were too good for Rui Hachimura, who could have been had for a guy that they had in Kendrick Nunn and a second round pick. I'm not going to litigate all those things, but certainly people feel like the organization kind of let them down. So I think it's split. I think in terms of legacy, it's complicated, and I don't have the answer because he left ugly. He doesn't thank the fans. I don't care about that, but that means something to fans. I think a lot of people that really care about the team. So it's really complicated. He made it as ugly as possible, which does not help his case. I think if he just shut his mouth and just let everything else kind of play out, it would have been different. But the organization, I think clearly in the moment, won the PR war. I mean, anything he did wrong, they made sure that they made it public. And I think Bernie Lee did not do himself any favors. And I think Bernie Lee, Jimmy Butler's agent, very active on Twitter, if your audience doesn't know, was actively fighting with Shams Charania, was actively fighting with the fans. I don't think that did Jimmy any favors. So I think it's complicated, and I don't even know what kind of reception he's going to get when he comes back.
Do they play the Warriors this year?
Yeah, they play soon. I think they play sometime in March.
So this return is looming, is what you're telling me.
Yeah. So I think it's soon. Oh, yeah, the 25th.
So end of March we get the Warriors coming back. So
which is flex to TNT.
So when you then see that the Warriors are 7-1 since that, and then the Heat are 3-6 since the trade, I'm sure I'm assuming, I don't want to speak for you, but record doesn't necessarily matter for the Heat at the moment. That what has this season now become for you, other than like the year they traded Jimmy and the year Tyler made the All-Star team?
It matters to the organization because they want to compete and they want to make the playoffs, and that I understand. But like for me, I'm just like, who cares? Like let's say they get.
And is that the not to keep interrupting you, but is that the mood of the fan base right now?
I think people care about different things. I think a lot of people just really care about the lottery at this point. Like I know like a lot of people on my staff are like really into the lottery right now. But listen, I
Draft
mean,
beat.
draft beat
Mhm.
super in on the lottery. They're 4 games back of Detroit. They're 5 game back for 6. They're 5 back of Indiana. I just don't see them bridging that gap. So they're going to be a playing team, and they're going to play Boston or Cleveland. And I think both those teams are it's a wash. And I think we saw how that worked out last year without Jimmy. Obviously, they're going to be, I think they'll be a little bit better because Tyler's better. And, they have, Davion Mitchell has been absolutely sensational for them. And obviously Andrew Wiggins kind of just being productive at all is helpful to them, whatever. So, but I just don't think that a first round series against either of those teams matters a lot. I think if you can get to 6, and then you're talking about a series with New York, or if you get to 4, you get a series with Indiana or who's the other 4 seed, or Milwaukee. You could talk yourself into, oh, can we make an upset here or whatever? But at that point, who cares? Like I don't care. I've watched
Yeah.
this team go to, how many finals have they been to in my lifetime? They've been to 4, 5, 6, 7 in my, you know what I mean? Like, who cares about a
Yeah.
fucking first round series that they upset? Like, whatever.
So you might have actually given me the runway to transition into this matchup because you said if you can get to 6, which like
Unlikely.
you just laid it out for me, and what the Pistons have been this year. I think they've put enough distance, even from a competitive level, that I don't think they're going to slow down.
I think
enough.
Detroit's just better than Miami too.
That plus I think they'll be better the rest of the season, to where even if the Heat got hot, I don't.
So Miami
see
has a
them
bunch of home
catching
games.
them.
I think they have 14 home games or something insane like that. So their schedule is super slated to help them, but I still don't think that they'll make up that ground.
So let's say let's create the world where the Pistons go cold, the Heat get hot, and it's 3-6 Heat
Miami,
Knicks.
New York,
Yeah. So as terrified as I'd be in that matchup, which I don't know how you feel hearing that I'd
You'd be favored.
I know you'd be favored. We were favored 2 years ago. Like, it doesn't matter.
No, but that 2 years ago was such BS. But
why was it BS? That the 4 seed was higher than the 8 seed?
I just don't think that the New York had the offense for that. And we had that conversation. I was like, I don't think New York is going to be able to score enough outside of Brunson. And I think that that's kind of what happened.
It's the Julius Randle conversation.
Yeah. No, and that was and I know he was hurt that series as well, which obviously, like, if he's healthy, that's probably extended. And I thought Brunson played better than I could have ever anticipated against a Miami defense. I thought was quite, like, tough. But
look, that game 6, that it was a 1 possession game with 5 seconds
Miami
left.
did give it back to you.
What do you mean?
There was like a ridiculous Max Strus foul that he so it was a lot of boneheaded moves from I'm not saying that those weren't fouls. I'm just saying, like, boneheaded moves from Heat players that, like, that game was kind of over. And then the Heat, New York doesn't give up. Teams don't give up. They're really kind of scrappy, hard team. And Miami really gave it back to them, as an 8 seed does.
That game 6 is a bit of a crossroads for crossroads is even the word. It's a turning point for Brunson personally, because I don't know if you remember the play, but Knicks down 2, Brunson gets into the paint and Bam rotates over, and Brunson out of the corner of his eye sees a Quentin Grimes opposite side, and it's last second that he sees it. And it's after the double has already come over and the pressure has collapsed onto him. He doesn't see Josh Hart wide open from 3 at the top of the 3-point line. And he tries to go over to pass it through the traffic, and it's just a turnover. And like Knicks season over, he hit 3 free throws. This new podcast that he has, or I guess it's not even new now, this pod he has with Josh Hart, the roommates pod, he's talked about how he played out that play a ton in his head. That, like, he lived with that if I just find someone on the wing, we at least have a better shot than me with my head down, surrounded by Bam and Jimmy. Then you go to the playoffs where they play the Sixers last year, and as soon as the double is rotating over, he hits Josh Hart at the top for 3, and then Josh hits it. Knicks winning 6 over Cleveland. And it's ironic that last night the exact same thing happened, where Jaren Jackson Jr. rotates over, and as he's rotating, Brunson hits Anunoby for 3, and the Knicks take the win. So as much as that series frustrated me,
that's coaching too, Andrew.
It is, and this is the tip stuff that a lot of people don't consider.
You make sure that option's open. You tell your guy, okay, like, this is the second option. When this guy, if you see that guy coming to help, that this guy's open. Find him at this spot. He'll relocate. He'll get there. And credit to the Knicks for that.
Yeah. So I think the Knicks are better. I think they're better.
The
The situation would just be different than what the Knicks were trying to do against the Heat that year. The Heat coming off a year where they were the 1 seed, had a bit of a year from hell, and then got hot come playoff time. All their role players, all of the, as we called them, the undrafteds, and you said, I forget, you called them the veterans. Like throughout the playoffs, anytime someone called them the undrafteds, you guys got upset. But it's just two different teams. Like the Knicks would be favored, and I think they would quell some
I actually think it'd
demons
be
to
an
the
interesting
fan base.
series. That's actually a matchup I don't hate for them.
So the Spo aspect is what I think I'm most afraid of. That so to the Knicks fan that's not watching the Heat as religiously as you are, this Kel'el Ware thing has happened,
Yeah.
and the less Terry Rozier thing has recently happened. How effective? I mean, talk through it for Knicks fans that aren't aware. But rookie Kel'el Ware is like now a starter, now playing next to Bam Adebayo. How has it looked, and how much should Knicks fans be afraid of it going into this game on Sunday night?
So yeah, that's I think that's the biggest development of the season. I think that just Bam playing with another big, a real big.
They're going double big, and not like a stretch big. It's like,
not
I mean,
like
I know he
Miles.
takes threes,
Yeah,
but it's not Cat, it's not Miles Turner, it's not even Kelly Olynyk. It's like 2 or 3 threes a game for Kel'el Ware.
which his shooting has gone off a cliff
Mhm.
recently. Which it's listen, he's a rookie, and his shooting was never supposed to be that good. I think he started off really hot, and the offense is not very good with both of them on the floor together. But the defense is really good, and I think that that's kind of important because their guards. I mean, since acquiring Davion Mitchell, they have a little bit more umph in their guard defense, but their wing defense and their guard defense for most of the season has been pretty bad. So Khalil and Bam on the floor together, about 300 minutes, plus 5 per 100 possessions, 115 offensive rating, 109 defensive rating, super good. They're shooting 38% from 3, which is okay. Kind of want volume up a little bit. And they're only shooting 54% from 2, which I think you want that to go up a little bit. And that part of that is symptomatic of Miami's just having awful finishing. And a part of that I think is also just like the bad spacing, especially if Bam is not the one rolling. But they've been really creative. They've run double drag with both those guys. I think that sometimes they'll have like Ware screen for the pin down for Robinson, and then they'll run a separate action on the other side of the floor. So they've been really creative with using both of them. I don't think the offense is like horrible. I think it's like passable with both of them on the floor together. And I think obviously like you need like Robinson, you need Hero to be like really active and stuff. And I think with Wiggins, I mean, Wiggins has really struggled shooting the ball since he's been here. But I think those two bigs kind of give you a chance against some of these more physical teams. I think New York is one of those physical teams. I know Mitch just came back, for them. And obviously like Cat is, I was there. I was at the game in Miami. It was my birthday. And I was pretty close
in
to
the
floor.
building.
And I was on the side that Cat flexed on me. And I looked at my girlfriend and she goes, "Is this supposed to be fun?" Like, no, it's not.
God bless the significant others that just are there for the devastating moments. Yeah.
So those guys have been huge for them. I mean, I think that's been the most important development this season. I think ideally, I've always wanted a wing next to Bam. I think PJ Tucker was like the example of like the perfect guy. And I think you kind of want somebody like that, or, like a power wing that can score or handle or whatever. But ideally you want to be very switchable. They're not very switchable right now, partly because of Ware, partly because of Hero and Rob, because when you play those two guys, you got to play Hero Robinson a lot. So it becomes, I think, a little strenuous. So you just got to depend on your drop. You got to depend on your help. Part of that was lost because Jimmy's not here anymore. And Jimmy, I think his biggest strength as a defender was a helper, guy at the nail, can really kind of dig in, prevent, really just provide resistance, off that drop. So if Kel'el is in a drop, he has to be a little deeper than Bam. Jimmy's kind of at that nail, the nail for Giannis doesn't know is like right at the free throw line. Jimmy's there contesting, being physical. Like I'm here, I'm coming from the wing and I can rotate back out. And then your weak side guy on the other side is going to be already like ready to rotate. If that guy, that's why Miami has like really good, rim prevention defense. Their teams score a high percentage, but Miami allows few attempts. That's kind of been the Eric Spoelstra thing for the last few years. They've lost that. Wiggins is long, not physical. And I think they've lost some of that physicality. Niko Jovic, long, not physical. Right. So they've lost some of that. So I think that it makes for an interesting matchup with New York, where I think they have the size. I mean, they even play Niko Jovic, Kel'el, and Bam together, and that's three guys that can play center. I mean, I think Nico's for sure more of a 4, but he's 6'10", right? You have like these huge guys, and I think if you're gonna fight New York, obviously the offensive rebounding is a concern. I mean, That's kind of like one of their biggest strengths, right? Where do your strengths?
Not as much this season.
Not as
I'll
much
say
this year.
that.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's kind of the MO with them. I think with Mitch back though, certainly. I mean, he's a guy that has a nose for it.
Yeah,
And
with
he's
on the
going to change
minutes
their team a
limit, on the
lot.
minutes limit, we'll see. We'll see what the Cat Mitch thing
Yeah.
becomes once he is able to play into 20 and 25
Yeah.
minutes. I'm still curious if there's ever the like a lineup change, like a starting five change. They've gone with this Josh Hart at the 4 or Anunoby at the 4, whichever positionless wings is what they've gone with for the majority of the season. With
That's going to be
Bridges,
interesting
yeah.
against the Miami though, because if they go with, I think Hart is. I think they probably have to go Anunoby because they're going to need a little bit of size if Miami's playing double.
Oh no,
big.
they're not making a lineup change tomorrow. I'll tell you that.
No, yeah. That's I thought we were like projecting.
Oh
Ahead
yeah,
in, like,
projecting come playoff time.
Yeah, I think Anunoby. The Raptors used to play Anunoby on Bam a lot, and that was really successful because he can switch a handoff on Robinson, which was I think probably the most helpful thing because he can't switch those handoffs, and that really blows it up. And Bam is not really punishing on the other side of the switch.
Yeah.
So
I would assume that's what we see tomorrow, by the way. I would assume that
Yeah.
they go Anunoby on Bam because you have Ware that you could put Cat on. And, it's not that Bam would really cook Cat defensively, but if you put I guess if you bring Ware into the action and Cat's and drop, then it's much easier to get that mismatch,
And if Bam is like creating his own shot, it's off the dribble in the mid post and or off that like kind of short roll jumper, which that's kind of Anunoby can defend that, right? Like you don't need to be 7 feet to do that. And Bam's what 6'9" or whatever. Like Anunoby can body up and contest and like contain, the handling. He's really strong too. So like that's kind of always been like a weirdly tough matchup for him. And then Kel'el is still very green offensively. Not that Cat is this all NBA guy, but certainly can. As long as you do an okay job, I think that with Anunoby doing his thing, I think that's
yeah.
So.
I think look, it's very much the jersey that I'm more afraid of, and I guess the head coach that I'm more afraid of if this does project out to a Knicks Heat first round matchup.
I think Miami's going to be able to score against the Knicks. I think that.
Everybody has been able to score against.
Yeah. Like I think Miami is. I think that would be an interesting series. I think that they're going to be able to score. I think Hero and Robinson are going to be able to attack those bigs and drop, and I think that they're going to be able to get to spots pretty comfortably. I think Davion Mitchell has provided like some solid kind of ironically rim pressure. I think that Andrew Wiggins is a guy too that against kind of the Knicks, not terribly physical defense. I think, and he has size against a lot of guys, and I imagine Mikal will guard him a lot, and that'll be a fun matchup of those kinds of wings. But that frees up Hero a little bit, and I think kind of that's where the Knicks will struggle too. I think Hero would have a really good series. I mean, he's just been so awesome, and I just like in a lot of ways, and I'm really proud of him.
3-point champ.
I think it'd be I would pick the Knicks. But I think if Miami, out of all the guys, I think Milwaukee's their best chance for an upset. But I think the Knicks would be second.
I think the thing I'm most afraid of, it's not even a Heat thing at this point, and I've started to see this in the discourse of projecting out to the playoffs, is the Knicks are on track to become that team, that high-seeded team that everybody's like, oh, they could be upset because of what they can't do defensively, that what they've been defensively this year. Teams have been able to score on them. And there's always that one top 4 seed that everyone universally is like, oh, they're susceptible. They're the team that could get upset in the first round. And I worry that that's the Knicks this year. But my hope is that their offense just goes gangbusters. Like, honestly, Minnesota was that team last year going into the playoffs. Everybody thought Phoenix, after the way that season ended, like, oh, I'm going with Kevin Durant. I'm going with, that's a 49 win team. Why couldn't they beat Minnesota? And then Anthony Edwards had a bit of a coming out party.
I just think those teams from 4 to 10 are so bad. Who would you most be afraid of? Just like take
Detroit.
Do you think the Pistons?
So I will say, like, the Heat fear is mostly a PTSD thing. That
not Orlando. I'm surprised you're not saying Orlando.
I that's first to 75. Knicks can outscore the Orlando Magic. I know that if they're healthy, sure. I'm never gonna be afraid of a team without a point guard.
Dude, did you see that tweet? That's like Paolo Banchero can do like the most athletic things in the world, but for some reason he's convinced himself to be Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, but like the worst version, like the last year Knicks Carmelo Anthony. And
did you see that clip of Jason Tatum?
Which one?
that Carmelo's son asked Jason Tatum, "Could you be my pops? You know, are you a better player than my pops? You know,
Mhm.
when all that stuff." And Jason's like, "Well, which version?" He's like, "End of Denver, beginning of New York." And Jason's like, "Yeah, I'm better than him."
Uh-huh.
I'm
Uh-huh.
like, dude, can I
With
curse?
yeah, go ahead.
Big fuck you to that guy, bro. Have
Yeah.
some goddamn respect for a fucking legend.
See, this is where you endear yourself to Knicks fans,
Fucking Carmelo
where
Anthony, you're Jason Tatum. Shut the fuck
yeah,
up, bro.
yeah, where you're
You're
telling
Carmelo. I'll say a lot of things
Jason
about
Tatum.
Carmelo. Not a loser. Jason Tatum, fucking loser.
I'll take it. I'll
Jason
take it.
Tatum's
NBA champ, but
Jason Tatum is the
loser.
most please like me dude in the world.
Well, yeah,
Nobody likes you,
that's been the
bro.
thing.
No one likes you. No one
Yeah,
likes your team. No one's watching that little fucking documentary that Bill Simmons is trying to get off the floor. Nobody's interested in that.
and it's like
Nobody
it's
wants to
funny
see
how
that,
many
bro.
people, and we just had Howard Beck on and say like, everybody, please check it out. So I feel bad.
No,
now
don't check it out.
so now we have
Are you gonna go watch a documentary on Satan? Of course
on
not.
Satan.
The Celtics, dude. No.
Yeah,
And don't watch the Laker documentary either. Fuck those people too.
there's a Laker documentary.
If there was, I'd say fuck those people too.
Okay, got it. I will say there's the
Have
only
some respect.
pushback and the only, because obviously I co-sign all hatred of all things Celtics,
Of course.
but the only pushback I'll give is 2 years ago there was a Yankee documentary, and it was glorious because he talked about the '04 team that lost to the Red Sox and like blew a 4-0 lead, 3-0 lead in the playoffs. Like the only baseball team ever to do that. And I got to watch all the Yankees that sat down for the interview talk about it. I was like, oh, I actually get to see them relive this.
That's the
This
same
is
team
kind
that
of
lost to
awesome.
that Marlins team.
That's the year before they lost to the Marlins, and
Dude,
then
I
the
hate
year
the
after they
Yankees.
lost to the Red Sox. So
Fuck the Yankees, am I right?
for me, yes. For the majority of my audience, probably not.
Well, I
See,
don't like.
you had
If
us
it makes
with
your audience feel
Boston, and
better,
now
I don't
you,
like
you,
baseball. Can't name two baseball players.
I was
can
gonna
name
say
Shohei
it's
and I
like
can't
Judge
name
and
another.
Otani, right? Do you know who Juan Soto is?
No.
Okay, then
Aaron Judge. I know Aaron Judge. Yeah, and
Judge and
Giancarlo
Otani.
Stanton. Is Giancarlo Stanton still in the league?
Still a Yankee.
Okay, there you go. Those are the only three guys I can name. Can't name a Marlin. Can't name anybody. Is Otani an Angel still?
No, he's a Dodger.
Okay, well that's
Yeah.
evil.
Yeah, moved across town.
Is who's that guy? Kershaw, is he still around?
Kinda. I think it's like a minor league deal. He's like the
yeah,
definition of washed,
Okay,
unfortunately.
yeah.
Yeah, but look at you talking baseball.
Look at that. Haven't
Can
watched a
I
single
go
pitch
from
in years.
the wildest segue
Please.
from Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers to Davion Mitchell? Because that actually
My
is
goat.
yeah, that is an aspect I'm very curious about.
goat.
We recently revamped our Patreon, and to celebrate revamping Patreon, we did an X's and O's draft where you had to draft like a team offense, a team defense, a best pick and roll defender, a best point of attack defender, a best rim protector. And Davion Mitchell got drafted, and then he got traded to the Miami Heat, and now he's not missing threes, and it's really annoying. So, I mean, just not specifically talking to this matchup, he's not as lengthy as like a Dyson Daniels or Thompson or the guys that have given Brunson some trouble. I think Brunson has more cracked those codes throughout the season. The Brunson quote unquote stoppers throughout the year just haven't exactly stopped him. But I have a feeling that Spo is just going to put Davion on Brunson going into this matchup. So how do you like his chances specifically on Sunday night in slowing Brunson down based off what you've seen from him over these first 8 games in a Heat uniform?
I'm going to give you a big congratulations. I think Brunson has graduated to that's a team effort kind of defense on a guy. And I don't think it's a one guy thing. And I think there are some guys in the league that, you just don't guard him with one guy. And I think Eric Spoelstra defense as well. Davion will fairly see time on him. I'm sure Haywood Highsmith will see time on him. Andrew Wiggins will see time on him. They'll probably switch a little bit of Bam onto him. He'll see a million different looks. But I think Miami's biggest defensive issue at guard is point of attack. Guards would just rip through them. I actually don't think Brunson doesn't beat them with quickness. He beats them with strength, with change of acceleration. He's very crafty. He has incredible body control. He is really good at manipulating his movement. He can be off balance and then on balance in the same motion. It's rather incredible. And that's really kind of where I think he gets his buckets. I don't think he's just like beating you in a foot race, off the bounce, which I think is where Miami has mostly had their issues. It's going to be a question, can Davion keep up with Brunson's strength? And we're going to see that. I think that's going to be kind of an interesting thing. But I think as long as he's not getting beat off the dribble, which I don't think Davion's going to get beat off the dribble, he's not going to get deep fried by him like he would to Hero or to Robinson. But as long as there's help in the back line, like we talked about, is Wiggins going to be at the nail, ready to help? What's the back line? Are they playing two bigs? Who's in the weak side corner? How is Miami going to kind of configure their defense? Like, is it going to be Kel'el? Is it going to be Bam? Who's going to be in drop? How they, attack it? Is it going to be cat and pick and roll? If there's cat and pick and roll, are they putting Bam? Are they ISOing? How are they configuring things? Are they going to put Anunoby and try to get like maybe a guy like Wiggins in pick and roll, as well? And then is that a switch? Like, they're going to have a lot of options. And I think Brunson's going to get his. He's a guy at this point that, he's just, you're just trying to make his life difficult. Can you make him a little inefficient? Can you keep him off the free throw line? And the rest is whatever. I don't think they have the wings. I think really important when you guard a guy like that is like you have the wings. You have the wings to switch. You have the wings to help. Don't think they have that. And I know this is a Davion question, but I think that defense everything kind of ties together. And I think Davion's job is like, hey, I got to contain. And I think he can contain. It's going to be like, is Brunson crafty enough to make his athleticism? No. So, I mean, Davion's, I think the best screen navigator they've had since Justice Winslow. Justice Winslow was a magician kind of going around screens. It was truly incredible to watch. Davion never gives up. He's small enough that he fits in between, and the Knicks are physical. Like those guys screen physical and stuff. So I think he'll, if they try to run Brunson off a screen or something, he'll be there. And I know like, I don't know if they still do that. They used to like to run Brunson kind of out of the corner off a screen and get the ball up top.
Yeah. The Chicago sets. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Davion's really good at kind of keeping that and not really letting him get that step. And I think when you do that, New York is going to use a little bit of clock because they're not just going to be able to kind of go in their action. And that helps Miami, I think. And if you're trying to, I mean, you're not going to shut him down. Davion's not going to be able to like, hey, Brunson's going to have 15 tonight. That'd be a party. It's like, hey, can we make him a little? I think the most important thing is like keep him off the free throw line. Can you make him a little bit inefficient? And is your help good? Are you being physical? And can you get him to turn the ball over? Can you send enough help and create kind of difficult passing angles? Who are the guys you're leaving open? It's all a team effort. But I think Davion's going to be up to the challenge. I think that's going to be the matchup. I think the two things I'm interested in are the things we talked about. How are the Knicks going to defend the two bigs? Is it going to be Anunoby on Bam? And then the second thing is going to be, how is Davion going to do on Brunson, a truly elite scorer, all-star level guy?
Yeah, we're all
NBA guy, really. I mean, I can't even be a hater. I mean, he's all NBA guy.
He's that's a foregone conclusion at this point. It's a what team conversation with Brunson, which I mean, look, that's the evolution. He's graduated from cute to all NBA, which is full circle with us. G. How much of the Knicks have you watched this year? If it's not a lot, it's cool.
I'm gonna keep it real. I think League Pass is horrible, and I don't pay for it anymore.
Okay. Oh wow. So
I think
not
NBA,
as much as you'd like to. Okay.
It's such a bad, and I don't mean to make this a platform to trash League Pass, but I think that I love this league. I love this sport, and I think if the NBA really cares about growing it, I think it's pretty ridiculous that baseball has such a better product than it. I think I watch soccer. I mean, by my hat, I mean I'm a big Liverpool fan, and I watch Liverpool on like 6 different platforms. ESPN Plus to Paramount to Peacock to cable, and they're all just a more pleasant experience and dealing with whatever the NBA is doing. So have not watched as much Knicks as I would like to because I don't have League Pass anymore because the product is so bad and it's just more expensive every year. And Adam Silver, I think you're a great guy. Fix this.
Fix it. Okay. So do you have any Knicks questions or any Knicks thoughts that from someone who hasn't seen a ton of them this year?
I guess the one thing that I mean, why is their defense the way it is? Is it just a product of like, okay, Cat's in a bunch of pick and rolls.
Yes.
And McHale is not like that level of defender this year. I mean, we know Brunson is, I mean, if you look at their starting lineup, I mean, like Josh is good. McHale, obviously, Josh is not that good.
He's had a rough year defending the three. I'll say that. There's a lot of possessions where he's just like, because he's tasked with also being your defensive rebounder, one of your rebounders. He's not. I don't know if it's a lateral thing. I don't know if it's a minutes thing that he's up there in minutes, but you can get an open three against Josh Hart. And I think what I'm alluding to also is probably the bigger picture of why their defense is what it is. They're last in 3-point percentage against. And Fred Katz had this really good stat on his pod the other day that if you one of these stats that like only beat writers have access to, but it's like adjusting the shot quality and luck of it all. And the Knicks are apparently have been the most unlucky team in the league when it comes to 3-point variance.
Yeah.
That it's like teams should be shooting 2 or 3% less than they normally would, but that because teams are getting great looks against the Knicks, they're last in that. So not only can you pick and roll them to death if Cat's in drop, especially when he's in foul trouble, especially when he's just backpedaling into oblivion. But if you do get some resistance, like if he does play closer to the level or closer to try and stop the drive, you can either just go around him or you just kick out. And there's been guys open for the majority of this season. So that's they just haven't figured out a defense that works with Cat against good teams, I should say.
How much
with
are they
Cat
switching?
at the
Like,
5.
how much are because like you look
They
at these
started to. The difficulty with switching though is it's so like we saw this with the Celtics on Sunday, this last Sunday. If you switch like a Cat 1-5 pick and roll, then Cat's on a smaller guy, even if it's temporarily, and then you end up with Porzingis being guarded by Campaign. So you just dump it to KP in the post, and that's 2 points. I will say on
why can't you
aggregate,
just blitz? Like, why don't you just like those better passers? Like, why don't you
so
just like
you're right. So we saw this right before the All-Star break when they did it with Trae Young. They finally started switching in overtime, and the Knicks got 2 stops and a turnover on the 3 possessions that they switched it. The worry is that like Cat's averaging 13, 14 rebounds a game. Like your rebounding just goes off a cliff if
without him?
you bring him that far away from the basket. So
Yeah.
the benefits of having Cat and drop is you got one shot at it this possession. Like you basically have the first shot and then he's going to get the rebound. That first shot has been significantly more efficient than
Why
I
don't
think the Knicks
they?
would like.
How do you feel about just using Cat in the drop and them deploying something similar to what Miami did with Butler, where Anunoby is not really defending kind of ball handlers as much, but he's really
Mhm.
in help positions at the nail to make sure that, okay, like we have some help for the drop man. In Miami's case, it was because they didn't trust the guards. But I guess in this case, I mean, you put Brunson and Towns in a pick and roll.
That's
You know,
why.
yeah. So I think you need the help. So if you put, and again, I know that that's not how Tibbs doesn't do that, but I think it would be interesting to watch a guy like Anunoby who's physical, kind of like helping there, and then whatever your weak side rotation is, whether that's the problem is like your backcourt's really small, like even like Campaign and McBride, like not a ton of size. I mean, McBride 6'1", Campaign is allegedly 6'3". Brunson's not very big either. Like you don't have a ton of size rotating. Do they play a lot of zone?
No, they never play zone. Tibbs never plays zone.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
never
it's
been
one
a.
of his faults that he just doesn't have it. Like there's some zone
Spo would have run
principles.
the shit out of zone with
Oh
Cat. You
yeah, of
kidding?
course.
Oh my god, get ready to
Yeah,
learn zone, buddy.
but that's like you ask some people, they're like, well, a lot of Tibbs's defensive principles are based on zone because he's trying to build that shell.
Yeah,
But to your point about OG Anunoby and help and drop, then you're kicking out to whoever OG Anunoby's guarding. I will say, like some of
but
their
that's on
best.
Anunoby to close out, or the guy at the top to close out. It's like you gotta help, right? And you gotta be your rotations have to be.
And that's where OG can gamble from time to time. He's probably one of the best diggers
Yeah,
that you'll see in the league. But if he either goes for the dig or gambles, then you're open from 3, and you kind of need a team that needs to be less. It's weird. You need them to be a little more aggressive, and we've seen them be a little more aggressive since January 1st. They've also need. Sometimes you just need to be a little more conservative as well in those specific gambles. So look, I'm at the point where I think we've got a big enough sample that I don't think against a team that matters, playing cat and drop is an effective way to try and stop. You either just need to outscore a team by a ton, and that's been the majority of their wins this year. If they've been their offense has been gangbusters, or they need a game like last night where you get contributions from other places. Another team has to go 4 of 31 from 3, and Jalen Brunson, who for whatever this contract matters, not contract, whatever this award matters, uh, uh, he's probably going to be the clutch player of the year. So he's just been outstanding in crunch time. They're 15-7 in crunch time
no, I mean
games this
he's
year.
the kind of guy that you want, a guy that
Yeah.
can finish through contact that doesn't get called because refs eat the whistle at the end of games. strong, can get to the basket. Obviously, we just talked about at the top of the show, can make those passes off that help. And I think teams are way more willing to do that kind of YOLO rotation at the end of the game when a guy kind of breaks containment, goes to the basket. So yeah, I
Yeah.
see that. I mean, I wonder if, a guy like Towns, if you just hedge him really hard, but I just think that works better if you have a guard that can really kind of stay, right? So you kind of show the big in the pick and roll like really, really high, and you kind of push the ball handler out. Make sure that whoever is on the wing is ready to kind of contain that role, so that if that guy gets the ball, he's swarmed. But again, I'm thinking like SPO defensive principles and kind of
Mhm.
Golden State principles where I it's tough, and I don't think that you don't have the Knicks don't have the personnel like Boston where they can play stuff way more straight up,
Yeah.
right? The help is way more
Well,
minimal,
nobody has the personnel like Boston. That's the thing that's
and
annoying
yet
about
they're
what
the
they
two
built.
seed. Much to think about.
Much to think. Yeah.
Much to think about.
My
Maybe,
column.
maybe if that guy that said he was better than Carmelo Anthony was a little better, maybe they'd be one. But why are they behind Darius Garland? You think
Mhm.
your grandma knows who Darius Garland is? No freaking way.
Listen, I'm obviously hoping the matchup never
Let's
happens.
go Cleveland. I'm
But
saying it.
I'm right there, which
Let's
is
go Cleveland.
think how full circle that is. That a Miami Heat fan is like, go Cleveland.
Let's go Max Strus.
Oh, sure, you have it. You can point to that and
I was
say it.
on I was on a podcast, Fear the Fro. Bob, great guy, hosting.
Mhm.
If you want to get Cleveland stuff, as these comes out, check them out. They're great, as long as same as my guys, Justin Rowan and all the stuff that goes on
Yeah,
with Cleveland.
yeah. The Chase
Love my Cleveland people, but Bob told me a story that Max Strus, who's a Cleveland Cav now, former Miami Heat player, he's teaching the Cavs zone. He's teaching them the SPO zone.
Oh,
So
wow.
he's literally in like the coach's chair, like directing the zone. I think it's pretty Heat culture, pretty beast. So
Yeah.
shout out to Max Strus, shout out to the Cavs. But
So we got some people watching live. Do you mind if we take some questions from said people
absolutely
watching live? Cool. And by the way, Ben Kim Gervy.
I didn't even know there was a chat. I would have been reading chat at the private chat.
No, you should be doing the pod with me. I like it when you
no,
just.
I love reading chat.
No, because then you end
I'm a
up.
streamer at heart.
I
Shout
know.
out to chat. Nah,
Shout out to chat.
Shout out to chat, dude.
I got
love
questions.
Chat.
I went and got questions.
Let's go, dude.
We'll
Let's
go to the
go.
chat now. First of all, Ben Kim Gervy has the principle that I've been alluding to. If OG gets aggressive and digs, we're open from three, and we have no rim protection when it's
That's
him
so
and
true.
Cat paired together, which is why adding Mitchell Robinson and we saw it last night against Memphis.
That's a huge deal for you guys.
So like just
Huge.
seeing what drop coverage being played like adequately and effectively can look like. And we saw it even like Cat missed the game on Wednesday against Philly with Ariel Hukporti, just like seeing what a good drop big looks like. And from a defensive standpoint, not from a rebounding standpoint, but from a defensive standpoint, it's just been night and day. And I feel like I've been way too slanderous of Cat. I think he's second team All NBA. I think he's been outstanding and exactly what they've needed to put a punch into this offense. And that's why they're top 3 or 4 in offensive rating this season. Ben does have an actual question, G, and he says, what pieces can and would Miami move to get some draft equity and cap room? What moves can Pat Riley make?
Said Rat Riley.
Does he say Rat Riley?
It says
excuse
Rat
me.
Piley.
What moves can
please get the chat joke right?
Rat Piley make? Rat Piley. Yes.
Chat and everything. I don't care about you. Before I get to that, I want to kind of talk about real quick what the other chatter said about the rim pressure. No,
okay,
but
it's the same guy. It's the same guy.
Okay, yeah. To Ben, I totally agree with you, and I think that's where I think playing Mitch and Cat together, and I think unfortunately, Jay Hart probably a bench role for him because I think you just need the maximum flexibility of size, and I think if Mikal is that guy that's rotating, I think at least he has length. But you have to make sure that you're showing hard, at the nail and stuff. But I agree. I think it's like really tough. You're gonna need as much size as you can, and I don't think there's an easy answer when you're 1 and you're 5 are probably your weaker links defensively. I think it becomes very difficult. To Ben's other question, what pieces can Miami move to get some draft equity? That's the thing. I mean, like they're gonna have to make a decision on Jovic. Jovic is extension eligible this summer. And they have to make some decisions on him, and he's a guy that they could move. I don't think that they want to. Haywood Highsmith is another guy that they're probably going to lose. They don't really have a lot of guys that they can move to get some draft equity. And I want to say something. The Heat never, this trade recently, that's the first time since I think 2004 that they traded a player and got a first round pick back.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Because they don't do that. They never
Yeah, they
do
don't
that.
really sell. They really
don't
had the
sell.
opportunity to sell. Yeah.
They never sell. So they've had opportunities, but that's just not in their philosophy. So I don't think that they'll get draft equity. And I think for the cap room, they're going to look at come 2025. I think they're going to try to move Kyle Anderson for something. They're going to try to get off his money. And I think Andrew Wiggins is another guy that they're going to look at. And it's like, can we flip Wiggins for something? I personally have not loved the Andrew Wiggins experience. And I think Andrew Wiggins is a good player. And I just think that Miami has two players that are better than him. And unfortunately, if Andrew Wiggins is your third best player and the two guys ahead of them are Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, you're probably not going to win a lot of things. That's no disrespect to to Tyler and Bam, but obviously, like, there's a ceiling from a Tyler Hero run offense, and I think I love him. He's an all-star. I think he's great. I'm awesome. I'm so proud of him. I've talked about on my pod for a bunch, like how improved he is in every aspect of his game. I just think that there's a ceiling about that. So, I think Tyler is probably the conversation that they're going to have. I don't know what they're going to do with him, but trading Tyler Hero is I think that's going to be a crossroad when they have to decide about his extension money, because that's a lot of money for a guy who's an all-star. I don't know if he'll make another one, but who I don't know. I don't really know what kind of floor raiser and ceiling raiser he is for you. So that's kind of the moves, I think. Let's see. They want cap space. I think they want some flexibility, and they want to see what they can do, maybe absorb contracts and trade and stuff. So that's what we'll see.
Complicated next question from Busy. Are you guys done with Pat the Rat or what? Like, I mean, he's 80 and like having a president of the United States, that's old. Oh, wait.
I think he's more capable than the current man in office for the United States, if that's any consolation.
But running the Heat or running the country?
Either.
Yes. Okay. Gotcha.
Either. Just in general, the guy.
Listen, eliminate the salary cap, and I wouldn't put Trump in charge of your basketball team as a bad option, because he just spends.
I don't want Trump in charge of my garbage. I don't want that guy anywhere near anything important.
Gotcha.
I think a lot of the fans are done with Pat. I'm not done with Pat. I think that Pat's made mistakes. I think I said it earlier, I think his biggest mistake right now. And I think people say, I think Pat is the face of the front office, but that's not really how it works. Pat is not the general manager. Andy Ellisberg is the general manager. And Nick Arison is involved in basketball decisions all the time. So is Eric Spoelstra, so is Andy Ellisberg, so is Mickey Arison, so is Pat Riley. They do things together as a unit. Pat is just the face. So I don't think that I don't think Pat retiring really changes. They are a think tank. They are a collective unconscious. They make their culture is organizational at this point. It's not, if Pat's gone, who do you think Eric learned from? Who do you think Mickey has built the franchise with? Nick Arison is Mickey's son. Who do you think he learned under? Andy Ellisberg has worked with Pat, and these guys this is how they think. So if Pat's gone, I don't think a lot's going to change. I think Pat certainly, I can tell you that comment about Jimmy. So there was a comment New Year's Day after they beat the Pelicans that the organization accused Jimmy of quitting. I can tell you that was Pat Riley. A lot of other stuff that has been said has not been Pat. The one thing that was Pat was telling Jimmy, you quit. But a lot of that other stuff that's come out, that's not been Pat. That's come from other people in the organization. So I don't really think that. I think people put a little too much like Pat Riley this, Pat Riley that. I don't think he's as involved in the day-to-day as you guys may think. Obviously, he's the team president and he has a lot of control and stuff, but they all are very united in the things that they do. And very often is their incredible dissent.
So it's like a Danny Ainge thing where everybody points to everything Utah does and say like, "Oh, Danny Ainge this," and it's really a Zanuck thing.
So annoying.
Yeah. From Dirty Dancer, this is. I mean, we alluded to it. What's your outlook or hopes for the rest of the season? But are you rooting to miss the playoffs and keep your draft pick?
It's a loaded question. So I do post games every night. I don't know if I have it in me to do however many games there are left, just losses.
Mm,
I can't do that. I At the end of the day, we do this. Listen, Andrew, we both know this is not a glamorous job. Doesn't we if we make some money, it's nice, but at the end of the day, it's hard work. It's
yeah.
tiring, and we do this out of love. I love this team. I love this sport. I don't want to watch them lose every night. Now, I think it's better if they get the pick. I think I'm kind of over. I'm kind of over everything. I've been having crash out after crash out. I make Montoya look like TED Talks on my pod. It's been bad. I think that it's better if they just get the pick. Now,
Top 14 protected, right? So they'd have to miss the playoffs in order to keep the pick.
yes.
Okay.
So
Okay,
it's
see, Jesus.
so that's actually a little complicated too, and I've kind of gone back and forth on this. If they make the playoffs, they have a pick that they owe to Oklahoma City. I would like that pick to
Yeah.
convey. Now, I don't know the draft. I don't watch college basketball. I don't like college. I shouldn't even say I love the sport. I love the NBA. And I love the WNBA. I don't like college basketball. I think college basketball is not very fun for me. Um, and so I don't know a lot about this draft. I don't know how deep it is. I've been told that this is a really good draft. I don't know. But I think I'd like if they make the playoffs, I'm really okay with it because then the Oklahoma City pick conveys, and that means that they unlock that pick that was supposed to be owed because they also traded a pick with Lowry for Rozier. So they have like this weird kind of pick situation where they owe picks that are protected and it kind of globs together and they have like the 3-year window where they can't trade a pick. So if the pick conveys, then they could trade picks faster. And to me, I think that's pretty valuable if you're the Heat. They got the Warrior pick, which they're likely going to get. So that kind of changes things a lot. I just still like the Oklahoma City pick to convey. I wish I had a better answer, dirty answer, but I'm pretty neutral on it for all those reasons combined.
Well, so the only, I think Dirty even said this in the chat that like you guys are great at drafting, even if it's like the mid to late lottery, like Kel'el Ware, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, like all these guys weren't taken with top.
I mean, Josh
5
Richardson was a second round pick, and say what you want
right?
about him. I mean, he's still in the league.
Yeah.
Like
So,
they're. I mean, Precious, your boy.
our boy Precious Achua, indeed, fellow Mets fan. 2 from Kevin Danishevsky, and it's like really one question, but he's trying to agenda here, which we respect agendas here at Knicks Film School. Hey, Giancarlo, I know you said earlier in the year that the Knicks need to upgrade from Josh Hart at the 2, and while I think he is going to be an important part moving forward, I agree. Any ideas? As my fellow Knicks fans know, I'm in favor of starting Deuce McBride, but we probably need someone who Tibbs trusts more.
I think you need more size, and I think Deuce McBride is like good, but
You know who'd be perfect?
he's 6.
Dante DiVincenzo. Oh wait, that's right. They traded him. I gotta understand you got to give something to get something, but Dante would have been
Dante. Yeah,
I was ready for that to be the Knicks backcourt for like the next 5 years.
I actually think that they should try to find some size in the backcourt because I think that they have some struggles defensively.
So why wouldn't that be Josh Hart?
Well, because I think we just kind of talked about how Josh Hart's just not been up to snuff defensively for you guys, like in terms of all the.
So you're saying size defense. So then maybe it is
Defensive
Mikal
side.
Bridges is the size, and then you're looking more for a center to put Cat at the 4.
I think that could certainly work, and I'm just thinking like what's realistic and what do they have. I think for sure a defensive minded 2. I think 2s are really hard to find nowadays. I think 2s have gotten smaller and smaller as they've kind of been a more of an offensive kind of player. I think or they're kind of taller and they don't defend well and they're just like really like special shooters. So I think that's kind of a tricky position right now, and I think it's kind of been a little bit of a void to find like good kind of role guys at that spot. But I certainly think that clearly like the Knicks need defense and you're trying not to sacrifice too much offense. So you want a guy who can shoot a little bit and can defend. And I think ideally you want size because I think your backcourt is just really, really small. And I think the problem with your backcourt being small is not like the defending at the ball, because I think there's a lot of ways to mitigate that. It's like your help. And I think that we just kind of went through all the reasons why New York needs really stable help defenders. And listen, I know that like obviously like you're not going to get Kyle Lowry, but like a guy like Kyle Lowry was a great weak side rotation guy because you don't need size to affect plays at the rim because you could take a charge, you could have good hands, you can contest, you could be physical. And Kyle did all those things. And Miami would use Kyle on the weak side to rotate as that corner. If kind of all that other stuff that we talked about with Bam and Jimmy and all that didn't work, your last line of defense is this guy kind of rotating in who has great hands, is going to strip you, will foul you if he doesn't think that, he could stop you, or he's going to take a charge. And, can Deuce McBride be that? I see Kevin in chat saying that's Deuce. I don't know. I don't know if he's
do me
at
a
that
favor.
level.
I have an experiment I want to do here. I know we're going a bit long today. So go to Clean the Glass and pull up the Knicks lineups. I want to play this out because I know Knicks fans know this, but I want to get your reaction to this. So pull up the Knicks lineups on Clean the Glass. Let me know when you're at the page.
Lineups.
Yeah, this is great radio. By the way, apologies to everybody that I've gone this direction, but I'm gonna show G what we've seen for most of the year and why we've been calling for more Deuce minutes.
Filter lineup. Can I just put the Knicks?
Yeah, just go to the Knicks and hit lineups. So you're there. So the first 4 lineups, they're either and Clean the Glass does this with differential, where it's like if it's bright orange, if it's bright orange, then you see like that's the more effective. If it's closer to blue, like it's blue and orange, the Mets colors, or I guess Knicks colors,
and it's organized by possession. Lovely,
right? So, in the top 4 most used lineups, it's either like neutral or kind of blue. The Knicks 4 most used lineups. Then start the lineups that Deuce McBride has been in, and it's either light orange to bright orange to like the sun.
Plus 42 here.
Yeah. So and look, all these lineups are like less than 200 possessions, so the sample size isn't big enough to where you're like, oh, this is like a definitive coaching malpractice. It's a curiosity because I think Tibbs is thinking the way you're thinking, that you need more size at the 2. But whenever he does go to the 2 small guard lineups, they're super effective. So while I agree with you, and I think this is just like a Tibbs thing, he had the chance to start Deuce for 2.5 weeks, and he went with Precious Achiuwa at the 4, and teams just ignored him for 3.5 weeks. We saw it's honestly like my biggest Tibbs criticism.
Your
of
this
offense
season is kicking with McBride and Jalen on the floor together.
You got that right. That it has been
+6 per 100 possessions, a 122. Wowzer.
Now take Josh Hart off the floor. Now take Precious Achiuwa off the floor. Now take like all these other guys off the floor, and it gets even better. So that's I think why I don't.
Run this. So Josh Hart, Precious off, those 2 on. Let me see, where can I find Josh Hart, Precious? Yeah, about the same, 122. I guess those guys haven't played. But
what's the differential? What's the differential?
+16.
+16 instead of +6.
Which is funny that the defense is what gets a lot better without Josh Hart and Precious.
Well,
that's you're playing instead of those guys, but
yeah. So
the 4 of them together, -12.
Yeah, that's if you go to the
131
overall
defensive rating.
That's why when you go to the overall of the 4 of them, or I guess the overall for like Josh Hart's on off, Jalen Brunson's on off, you literally just eliminate Precious from the equation. Which again, I think Precious is a fine. Benji Ritholtz, my colleague, calls him an innings eater.
That guy stinks, bro. Let's not pretend he freaking stinks.
I think he's next to a 0 on offense, unfortunately. And when the way they play him isn't in the dunker, like if you treated him like a center, I think he could be effective because he could kill it with offensive rebounding. They put him in the corner.
Too small, Ernie.
Everybody, but effective from the dunker though. When you put him in the corner, you treat him like a wing.
I watched him.
Everybody that guards him is just to ignore him. He's just guarding the rim instead.
I think when he's too one-dimensional, that when these conversations that we're having, that's just not realistic in the playoffs.
Oh, I know that you just. And yet we saw it. Yeah.
I know you said innings eater. Innings eater is not a playoff term, but
right.
Yeah, just that guy.
I don't think if we're seeing Precious Achiuwa minutes in the playoffs, something went wrong. That's what happened last year. And Anunoby got hurt. But this is why I said this is just like a Tibbs thing. He'll go with the bigger player rather than the better player, and it's why I'm hoping the good outweighs the bad. And I think they're about to win 50+ wins.
I get his concern.
I get it too, but how many times do you have to see it fail before you decide to go?
I'm with you. Player? I mean, listen, I don't watch them like you guys do, but like I think it's pretty clear that the data says to play a certain guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
funny how that works.
It's evident that the data says to play a certain guy.
Yeah. So we'll see what if this is a new leaf, because Josh Hart got in foul trouble last night, and we finally saw Deuce McBride get close to 30 minutes. And what do you know? The Knicks won. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of Tibbs criticism, last question has to come from the host of the post-game show, Mr. Jonathan Macri with a super
Love this
chat.
question. Love this question.
Bigger blunder, the Dwayne Wade statue or the Terry Rozier trade?
The two biggest, the biggest blunder in the history of the organization is not paying Dwayne Wade in 2016. I think that is still the worst thing this organization's ever done. The second worst thing they've ever done is trade for Terry Rozier.
And that's not coming from the Kyle Lowry lifer. No, it's a Terry Rozier thing.
Kyle's contract was expiring. They needed to get under all these stupid aprons. They could have signed a guy to the mid-level. They could have done so many things. Instead, they threw a first-round pick away for a guy who is genuinely the worst rotation player in the NBA. He is awful. He does nothing. Doesn't defend, doesn't pass, doesn't score, just turns it over, eats space, does nothing. He's horrible. I've never seen, he's like, I cannot believe a professional athlete at that level is that bad at everything on the floor. It is, at least put some effort on defense, bro. He's horrible. And he's getting coaches DM. Do you know how bad you have to be when you're getting paid almost $30 million and you get a coach's decision DMP? Do you know how bad you have to be? You have 2 years on your contract. Do you know how awful you have to be at basketball? For an 8, because when those guys don't play, the agents call all day saying, why is my client not playing? And the agents make your life a living hell. Do you know how bad you have to be for that to happen? And they gave a first-round pick for that, bro. They don't cut many of those. What the fuck?
Yeah, listen, I've heard you guys rant and rave about it. It's one of the more entertaining things from my perspective, but I understand from
I question if I love the team when I watch them.
Listen, we've had guys like that. The 1 year Kemba Walker, it was just hard to watch. Every team put him in
At least that's a legend, bro.
Yeah, the fact that there's no
least that's a
attachment
local
to it.
legend.
Yeah.
Like what do we have to cheer about Rozier for?
And
Celtic,
for your case,
a former Celtic?
From your perspective, it's also the fact that it's a Kyle Lowry addition.
I put that behind me because like I thought Kyle was gonna walk in the offseason anyway. So it's like whatever. Like it is what it is, but yeah. And I agree with chat. The statue is a disrespect to Dwayne.
Yeah, we talked about this last time you were here, though.
Right.
It's
time
like what Dwayne Wade means to the city is more than what
I still haven't seen the statue up close.
Why didn't you see it when you went for your birthday?
Bro, so many people.
Okay. Oh, look at you.
I haven't been to a game since. I got to be honest with you. I was going to go to the Wemby game. My girlfriend got sick, so I didn't go. I've had little to no desire to go to the arena. They have sucked the life out of me.
Yeah. And that's a Terry Rozier thing, potentially.
What
happened? I don't know if you want to talk about what happened with the gambling thing. That just kind of like went away.
Let me tell you something, man. Please. FBI, I know you're listening. Get that man.
Oh, God.
Get that man. Get him. I am watching him every night. I just said that's not normal. It's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
The FBI got him, or they're investigating for your audience. Apparently, he was telling people to bet the unders on his performances. I gotta be honest with you. If I bet the unders on Terry Rozier, we would not be talking right now because I would be on a yacht in Santorini.
So that's where we're at. And look, that would just make a lot of sense if that's what that.
I would not be wearing a Liverpool hat. Yeah. I would be owning Liverpool if I had bet the unders on Terry Rozier performances for the last year and a half.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in what all Knicks fans, I see the chat saying this. What all Knicks fans are now expecting in this game on Sunday is for Terry Rozier to re-find his form, like he did last year in the matchup against the Knicks. He hit 7 or 8 threes, I believe, in that game. In a game he actually played pretty decent defense against Jalen Brunson. I'm very ready for that to happen down in Miami.
Can I address one thing in your chat?
Go right ahead.
Somebody said Heat fans only show up when they're good. Let me tell you something.
Here we go.
Go ahead. Let me tell you something, bud. You don't have to watch Terry Rozier the way I do. You don't know how soul sucking it is. So yeah, I don't want to go. I don't want to go pay to watch Terry Rozier. I don't want to go sit in a lot of traffic. You know how much traffic's in downtown Miami? Yeah, Andrew knows.
Mm-hmm.
You know how much traffic there is. Do you know how much it costs to park? I buy a ticket. I got to pay $30 in parking. I'm not happy because I'm watching Terry Rozier play basketball. It's not fun. I'm not going to lie. It's not fun. I watch every single game against my will.
Yeah. But
no way I'm going to
Biscayne Boulevard at lunchtime is busy, let alone like during game night,
floods all the time.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah. Now, look, I'm coming from the world of public transportation, just dropping me off at Madison Square Garden. So
I live on the train line and I've never taken it.
Do you? Oh, so there you go.
I literally live on the metro. Like I hear the train every time.
Yeah. Well, for this matchup on Sunday night, I'm obviously hoping that the soul sucking season that you've had continues. And I'll be honest, as a hater, first, I can't personally say I hope things get better.
Get your licks in, buddy boy.
Look, for this, I hope you personally are doing well. Like, I hope your life is fantastic. Things outside of the Miami Heat. Miami Heat
top of the table, baby. Top of the table.
I was tuning in throughout the entire Jimmy saga to the Miami Heat beat. I thought you guys covered it really well and broke it down really well. And to anybody watching that may want to go back and rewatch some of those episodes where Miami was Miami Heat
crash outs.
Yeah, the insane crash outs. Would you please let the fine folks know where they could find you and the Miami Heat beat?
Quick shout out to Ben in chat. Say we watched Lou Amundsen. Nothing's funnier than that.
Yeah,
you win, big dog. You win.
Yeah.
You can find us at MIA Heatbeat on Twitter. And really where you want to catch us, our streams live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Miami Heatbeat, or we also stream live on YouTube now. So Miami Heatbeat on YouTube. I believe it's youtube.com/Miami Heatbeat. I don't know the links on YouTube work, but we stream live on YouTube now. And if you miss any show, you can catch the VODs, as Andrew said. Just click under live and you can go scroll back and see, any show that we did. And I think we have a lot of fun. I think we always try to bring you energy after losses. If you want to watch us crash out, be my guest, come and chat, have fun, poke fun at us. I think we all have a pretty good spirit about it too. So we all love to have fun. I know some of your people come in chat. I know you have some of your listeners tweet at me all the time, and it's a good spirit. So I love your audience. Shout out to Knicks Film School fam. You guys are great. Love you guys. Always. Thank you for having me on. As always, Andrew. Always a pleasure to talk with you and interact with your people, because I always have a great time.
Yeah, it's love. It's a hateful love. Hate the Heat, love
all hate and love.
Exactly. G, as always, it's good to see you. Thank you for joining me, and thank you to everybody for joining me for another edition of the Knicks Film School pregame show. If you dug it, please head over to iTunes, drop a 5-star rating and a review. Subscribe to the channel. Remember to like the video as well. I will be back on Tuesday when the Knicks take on Jimmy Butler and the Golden State Warriors at Madison Square Garden. But until next time, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the game tonight, enjoy the game tomorrow night, and I'll speak with you soon. Peace.